Penis.
Fuck you. That was just too goddamn perfect. That was just at the end of the intro. Hello, everybody.
I know, I heard you click and I done a countdown on my end.
Fuck you. Anyways, welcome everybody to the Unsolicited Opinions podcast. Sorry for the 2-minute delay. We got talking about stuff and things, and yeah. I'm of course sorry. I am a little bit distracted today. I'm of course your host, the Meerkat Monarch. With me as always is my partner in crime, Artivous Ira, and to the right of our overlord is Roy, and our overlord, of course, is Dr. Evil at the head of the table.
Yep.
So if you're wondering, Roy is the unicorn, I'm the meerkat, and Artivous is the wolf. That shouldn't be too confusing. Now we've actually introduced everybody. This week,
a Pepe.
Yeah, you want a Pepe? God damn, you can't have a Pepe wolf. That just doesn't work.
I'm a puppy.
How you?
Puppy.
Okay. How are you gonna
Pepe in a wolf costume?
Yeah. How are you gonna make the wolf look smug? Oh, you could. Yeah, you could have. But that would mean that Pepe had
don't
killed...
question the power of Photoshop.
No,
Ave, true to Pepe.
Anyways, sorry about that. It's been a bit of a chaotic week. Bit of a crazy week.
Chaos.
Yes, and I think we're gonna start this week with something that, yeah, it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of sad that this is happening. There's a new show from HBO coming on very soon that is called Confederate. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to adjust my fucking volume because for some reason I can't hear myself.
It's called. It's this new show. I've heard rumblings about it, but I don't know any details. Anyone got any details they can explain to me exactly what it's about?
The basic concept, and it's not like this hasn't been done before, is the South won the Civil War. What would happen?
Yeah, that's been done before. That's the premise of an
entire series of novels, very popular novels by Harry Turtledove. Yep. It's been done as fake documentaries by the BBC like decades ago. So apparently this is what a new series by Netflix, I believe. It's a Netflix show now, right?
Yes, it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just checking my sound.
It's one of the cable networks that's been doing their original TV content, and they're doing this one for Confederacy. And, of course, people are screaming, "You can't glorify slavery! Oh, God!" Which is, of course, not what it's doing. It's like the man of the high castle is kind of like, no, this is a warning of what could have happened. This is not saying it's a great idea.
The fact that the fact that it shows negative history that they don't want to think about at all. That's the irony of it. Is they don't take a second to stop and think, maybe we should let this history and let this warning go through. And this is propaganda for you, of course, because you're going to use it to say that they're the Confederates, but you're not going to because it'll be nuanced and they know it and they can't stand that.
I think the going argument now for that side is, you're fantasizing about what... Nobody would watch this unless they're fantasizing about what it would be like today to have a Negro in chains.
Yeah, that's
they don't even know what the show's about. Yeah. The show has
they don't.
Like that's
no,
the
but
thing.
That's what they're arguing.
It sounds like a bit like Wolfenstein: The New Order, where it was the alternative reality where the Nazis had won, and then you went and kicked their fucking asses.
There's TV shows on right now that are about runaway slaves in the Underground Railroad. Like what do you think is going?
Yeah, but their whole argument
God,
is
they can't
that,
handle
well,
the most.
you know,
They can't handle the most basic of human history that they don't like in any way.
No, it's
I would just be sitting in the thread and just thinking, it would be interesting to see what would happen if the Democrats won and see how they react.
so Nixon's Southern strategy would have in fact been to turn the North, or he would have been a Democrat, or
yeah, well,
Probably.
yeah. It does appear to. It's just really, really, really.
It's the
sad.
same problem when they showed the Wolfenstein trailer and it was a what if.
Yeah.
well, it's like they just came out with the Dunkirk movie and people are complaining about the lack of Muslims in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That actually came out. Yeah. Where
It's
are
the
all
same
the
thing.
black
It's like
British
with Wolfenstein,
soldiers who
the whole
served with the army? It's like, yeah, in the colonial units.
Yeah.
Or where are all the black people serving in the American Army during World War II? Well, most of them were cooks because they weren't allowed in fighting units.
There were black
this is-
units like the
Yes.
Buffalo Soldiers.
Well, obviously the Tuskegee Airmen,
Yeah,
Buffalo Soldiers, and so on.
yeah, and the Red Tails, but
They're-
those were specialized units, and those were only and they did a lot of good, and they did a lot of work, and
Yeah.
and they're heroes,
The
Yes,
Nisei
but-
yes, of course.
Battalion. Yeah.
but they were
I'm
not the
saying
norm
that.
in any
no.
way, shape, or form.
No,
They
you
were
wouldn't-
Okay.
You
they
would-
were special because they were rare.
Yeah, they were parts of segregated units as well. They served very often on more behind the lines type of activity, like in camps and so on as cooks and so on. But they did have fighting units, but they were more segregated fighting units, as far as I can remember.
May I
I
suggest
fixed
a
my
practical?
microphone problem, by the way.
Let me suggest a practical solution for people who want to protest Confederacy and Dunkirk. I suggest that they go ahead and get a hold of Mel Gibson, and they do nationwide reshowings of The Patriot, which not only touched on the issue of slavery in the time of colonialism, but also on the bravery of freedmen who fought with the colonial army. And it talked about the policies on both sides at the time of promising freedom from slavery in exchange for service.
Yeah.
This is a movie that gets bashed by everybody when they talk about historical inaccuracies or problems like that. But let's go ahead and champion this Mel Gibson movie that was so progressive that you've forgotten about it already.
Yeah.
They don't want any. Okay, they're going to rally against any period piece at this point, just because they can't rewrite history. And that's what they want to do.
Well, that's not completely. That's not completely true, because they do rally behind the new Amazon TV series, which is called Black America, which has that. It takes the same premise, only it takes the premise of the Union winning, but the slaves of Louisiana, Mississippi, and I think it's Alabama as well, getting those
where
states,
they make their own country.
Yeah, New Colonia is the name of the new country. And I to be quite honest, I think both premises of those two
That
TV
sounds
series
interesting, but they're still going to shit on it.
No.
It's not. There's no way. No. There is no. Okay.
There's a historical example of this. It's called Liberia.
You can't be progressive enough.
No.
I'm not. Something in the show is going to happen that's going to trigger the absolute hell out of them. Either like somebody's going to get raped, or a black character is going to die. It's not going to take much, and then they're going to instantly hate the show.
Of course, that's bound to happen.
Everything
but
will
they
be
have
good for something.
No, but the thing is, they don't know anything more about the Confederate show and they don't know
Yeah.
anything more
They're-
about the Black America show.
to
But they
them-
no, let me finish.
No.
No,
My argument.
No. Listen. Let me finish.
Okay.
Because they are gathering behind the Black America show. There are several blogs that have already sort of spat on the Confederate show and gathered behind the Black America show. Both shows have the same fucking premises.
Jen,
the show is not No Confederate. That's the hashtag protesting the show.
Yeah, no. I said Confederate.
Jen. They're rallying behind this show now, but that show in that timeline is a giant fucking trigger warning, because as soon as they show any kind of struggle for the brown characters, as soon as it gets difficult in any kind of way, they're going to lose their shit.
Oh yeah, that's not what I was saying. I was
it's just the Confederacy is a bomb that they see coming that they want to defuse.
Yeah.
The other show is a landmine.
Yeah.
Yes.
But my point is
one show that they'll never.
Yeah, my point.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, my point was not that they're not gonna shit on it because they're unimaginative assholes who'll shit on anything just because it doesn't fit exactly in their own mind. They don't
understand the hero's journey.
No, they don't understand fiction.
It's that basic concept.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Roy.
Let me tell you why they do like it. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason that they do like the concept right now, sight unseen, for Black America, is it's the premise that Black people have taken something from white people, and white people deserve to be shit on as a class, and Black people deserve to be raised up as a class. And that is the sole basis upon which their support rests. That's also the sole basis that they oppose Confederacy.
Yeah. Well,
that's it.
Yeah.
For something nuanced, something historical, if they were to do a documentary, say a fictionalized, dramatized version of the foundation and early years of Liberia, which for the longest time was one of the most progressive and advanced nations in Africa, and founded specifically to get American Blacks who, out of slavery over to Africa to found their own colony and be free. That was the whole idea. And for a long time, it went very well. But that's not the story that these people want. They want victimization narratives, not people helping people.
No, exactly. And it's the same reason why it's the same,
making something great.
It's the same reason why they gather behind Black Panther now, but once the movie's out, they're definitely going to find something.
Yeah. So, if they make him even a little bit of the isolationist nationalist that he and the country is, they're going to flip out.
I saw some of the comics that you were bitching out about finally.
Yeah.
I take it you've seen the one where they actually have like the council meeting. It's like, here's so-and-so from this region, and here's so-and-so from this region. Yeah. We don't know anything about this. No. What's interesting? Well, I'll pencil you. We have a crisis ongoing. There's a new god in the area. I'll pencil you in for next week.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Exactly. Well, it is
what are you doing?
Yeah. It's the general problem with. Well, as someone,
it's virtually removing Black Panther from his own comic. I was so pissed off.
Yeah, but
they've done that with the majority of the Marvel heroes, no matter what color or race they are.
Yeah.
Even the other Black Panther comic is more about White Tiger than it is about Black Panther.
Well, that's my issue as a creator in general, is that they can't. The second they are so tread into their own psyche that they can't understand that someone might view the world a little bit differently than them. And second a character defies that worldview, they freak the fuck out.
It's the echo chamber thing, and we're already into Marvel and DC. You might as well talk about it.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
When you look at all right, you look at Marvel sales, which are down like something like 93% or something. It's insane.
Yeah.
they're the type of people who don't realize. All right, these people are trying to indoctrinate children with comics. That in itself is a futile attempt because kids don't read comics. All of these Marvel movies, all of them that have been out forever, never really increased comic sales. The kids watch the movies, they'll buy the toys, they'll buy every other piece of merchandise, but they will not touch the comics because smartphones fucking exist. So the group of people that actually read comics are generally middle-aged to late 20s people and older.
Yeah.
And even if the kids were reading the comics, they would have stopped buying them by now. Because kids don't like being preached at any more than anyone else.
Read comics. So the people that you're trying to socially change
are already beyond that point.
Are already beyond that point in the first place.
Yeah.
And they've stopped buying comics. Like, there are kids that do read comics and whatnot, but it's usually because their parents read comics and they get them into it. And they're the ones buying the comics for them, not the kids.
No,
like exactly. Diversity in comics.
It's the thing where, I mean, when I read comics avidly as a kid, and then I got old enough, right around the age of 16 or 17, when I realized my intelligence was being insulted repeatedly. Just the way that they were doing stories and then cashing out their own stories, and nothing would ultimately change. You'd go back to 0 point. I'm just kind of like, okay, this is like a giant runaround. I'm only just noticing.
The death and return of Superman situation.
Yeah, I got into gaming, but I stayed in comics on the independent side strictly because the gaming store I went to also had huge racks of unsold independent comics. I was like, hey, I'm not gaming right now. Let me flip through. Hey, wait, these indies actually have some good stuff. This is interesting. This is well written. And oh yeah, this comic died after issue 3 because it wasn't selling because it was crowded out by Spider-Man number whatever.
It's that concept where they don't realize that they're trying to sell a product. And when you're selling a product, you want to market that product to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And they don't care about that. See, because Marvel is full of zealots, and I've seen their Twitter feeds, I've seen what they say and how they talk. They're zealots that purse puppy the women in their company to try and sound progressive.
Yeah. Well, let's move into the actual topic. Let's start talking about the milkshake controversy.
The non-controversy that nobody cared about.
Yeah.
No, that was the thing. They basically.
I didn't even know about it. Until
nobody. It's
people started.
There are people already comparing it to Gamergate.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know about it until my friend, my author friend, started asking me questions about it, and then I started to dig in it and just said,
I only heard about it from
this is
Diversity in Comics, a YouTube channel that basically he reads he buys these comics so you don't have to, and then shows you how bad they are, and then tears them up.
Yeah.
I would love to have him on the show. But
I'll be frank, I don't really like his presentation. He's got kind of a bad speaking cadence, but the material he covers,
he's very unprofessional, but he gets the point across.
Yeah, I wound up subscribing and keep watching his stuff. I was like, wow, despite his flaws, I can't stop watching.
And the thing is when you look at the way they like the whole case, basically a bunch of women who work for Marvel, they didn't specify if they were writers or use probably the irony is probably one or two of those girls are secretaries. But we all went out to milkshakes together and all female empowerment, and probably maybe one person on Twitter made fun of them or said something negative about them. And whenever you do that, it's going to cause a shitstorm in the company, or they try and use it for we're harassed and our milkshake and and everybody's like, we don't care. We've stopped buying your comics. We don't give a shit anymore.
that they were actually fishing for the harassment.
Yeah, they were fishing for the harassment.
If you look at the faces of like half of the women in that picture, it's like there is like, here we are, boys. What are you going to do about it? I'm kind of like, nobody cares.
You stopped buying your comics. Congratulations.
Yes,
it's what you wanted. That's the thing. It's we're taking this from you. It's like, okay, you no longer get our money, and they'll move to something else. They'll do into like they'll go into independent comics. They'll go work on something else.
They're like
plenty of manga out there.
They're like the aliens in Independence Day. They move from planet to planet and destroy the entire environment.
I find that insulting because the aliens were actually capable of actually accomplishing something.
Yeah,
their technology was advanced.
Okay, locusts then. Fine, locusts.
Okay. There is something.
Well, locusts actually provide a natural service to some degree.
True. Right.
Very true. This whole thing kind of got me back into it. I started tearing into the hashtag over the last week, and I started seeing some people dropping some actual sales numbers. It's like, oh, look, facts and figures. Back in the 90s, I actually tried starting up a new comic book company that would have been web-based. And so it's like, oh, well, yeah, this is kind of my old meat and potatoes. Let me jump into here. And they were discussing Marvel sales. The number one of Iron Man about 2 years ago when it launched sold 250,000 copies roughly. And it did that because they had all kinds of alternate covers, and they really blew out the marketing for number one. It immediately dropped down to between 40 and 60,000 an average per issue, which for these days isn't terrible.
Yeah,
100K used to be the exit level. If you were Jim Shooter and a title at Marvel was selling under 100,000, it got killed. And this is Iron Man selling 40 to 60% of that. That was last year. This year, once they started pulling the really heavy-duty SJW bullshit, it plummeted, and it's now below 30,000. These are the levels, and I can tell you from experience, the more popular black and white independents from the 1980s were making those kinds of sale levels. That's how bad Marvel is off right now. They are scraping bottom.
Well,
even the comics that they're pushing forward that they're trying to champion as, oh, they're so popular and everybody loves them, are selling under 10K.
Oh, and also one other thing is that dealers are reporting that they're getting strong-armed. They're getting sales notices from Marvel. No, and this is actually really nasty. Marvel is saying, we need you to up your purchases of Iron Man and other related titles by 225% this month, or we will not sell you any of the gadget covers that do really well. Like a lenticular cover, those are really popular.
I would sit there.
If you want to get that.
As a comic book store owner, at this point, because sales are so low, that's the thing, is they think they still have the power to do this. There are going to be comic shops that are going to be like, okay, they can still sell DC, and they can still sell independent comics because independent comics sell better.
This is the point that I wanted to make, is that right now I'm seeing the feedback from dealers on this. Now, I haven't seen a lot of dealers, but the ones I've seen are split down the middle. One side is saying, I have to get the lenticular covers and other special covers in order to keep my head above water. This is survival for me, so I'll buy the mulch runs. They won't sell, but I'll make enough off of the stuff that does sell to at least stay in the game. And others saying,
You cut off there.
Scott. Okay, right? Yeah, they're saying things like, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Am I back? Okay.
Yeah.
They're saying things like, I'm only going to buy token levels of comics so that I can get to the merch, because it's the merch that really sells for them. Above and beyond, I mean, when you've got something like Spider-Man selling 16 copies in a month, that's 1/6 for a given store. They're like, no, I either have to go in whole hog or pull it back all the way. They're splitting down the middle. And I think Marvel's going to have a day of reckoning here.
And it happened about 15 or so years ago. When all the comic shops that were in my area started to close down. because people weren't buying comics. And so all these comic shops started doing different things in order to survive. The main thing is that the majority of them added gaming to their sales, tabletop for the most part, to make up for the fact that comics just simply weren't selling anymore.
Yeah, they
and
adopted
merchandise and started selling merchandise. Stuff that people who aren't going to buy comic books will come in and buy. They'll come in and buy a plushie or a fucking Funko Pop or whatever. They'll come in and they'll buy that.
They
But they
adopted
won't
the
buy.
Norwegian model basically, because that's
Yeah,
how
they won't
fancy
buy.
shop have worked in my neck of the woods for ages.
They won't buy comics, and so I know a lot of these comic shops that are selling other stuff. They're just like, I might as well just sell nerd memorabilia and move away from comics.
Yeah.
And they're killing comic shops because of this, even worse than they were before, because they were already dying.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's maybe...
Instead of them picking way up on the back of the films, they're not, because the films aren't related to the comics at all.
Exactly. And so they don't sell the comics because nobody cares other than the comic book fans. And in my city, in my state, there may be 3 comic shops left in the entirety of the state.
Yeah.
3.
And
all of them sell
and what those
gaming
comics should be
stuff.
selling, those comics should be selling supplementary stories to the films that are currently popular.
Yeah, those would actually sell.
Yeah.
What are the Avengers doing between this movie and the next one? Oh, they went and done this, and that. Oh, interesting.
They could instantly
Well, you
do
mean
filler
like
arcs that would
copying
sell
the
comics.
success from Star Wars back in the day during the 1980s when they did between the movie stories? Oh, no, that has never worked before.
The Star Wars comics are the only thing in the Marvel house that are actually selling and are actually good.
Yeah.
But that's because Disney won't let them do anything with the fucking stories that like. Disney has a clamp down on Star Wars so hard that they can't put all of the bull crap that they do in regular Marvel comics into it.
Don't start me with Disney and Star Wars.
They're actually
Disney said, "We spent multiple billions of dollars on this franchise. You are not running it into the ground."
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. Because those comics are canon. That's the thing. The Marvel Star Wars comics are canon. They're a part of the storyline. Yeah, there's a Darth Vader one that's usually
usually they're kind of like, no, we don't want that because it's too freewheeling.
No. There's a Darth Vader one that's basically an ongoing telling of Darth Vader's basically learning to use the suit, getting his lightsaber, him killing the first Jedis, him
all the shit that's not going to be in any film.
Yeah, they did this because
that's smart.
They did this.
It's actually good.
Yeah,
and it's the only thing at Marvel that's selling.
Yeah, they did this because that's exactly why they did it. Because they abolished what was canon previously and put it in the Legend universe instead, and then they could just produce the entire new story or the entire stories that they had already established in the movies. They could expand on them, so they could expand on the story about Palpatine, his past, and his former master, and so on. They could go back to the stories between
a united canon, because before the Star Wars the extended universe
the extended universe was
a mess.
Yeah, but it was still good. It wasn't bad. It was just
it was good. Well, some of it was good, some of it was bad, but it was still like
let's
7
get straight
different
why.
Freaking universes.
And the reason for that, of course, was that Lucas didn't care. He didn't exercise any kind of real creative control.
Whatever they wanted.
People generally do their best, but not everybody can read everybody else's stuff. So
there wasn't an omnibus of canon.
No,
and if you didn't know, you didn't know.
That's why I don't get the hate against Kevin Feige, because Kevin Feige is the one who has who has inspired the Star Wars part of Disney to do this. He hasn't necessarily brought this. He's not the one who has imposed this on the Star Wars universe, but he's the one who established.
What's going on?
No, there's like Bleeding Cool and all the fucking.
Of course.
Bleeding
Cool's like the outfit that will back up Marvel no matter what. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's idiotic, and he is the one who established a way of thinking in the future that you need someone with complete control over your property so that the property doesn't bleed out and people lose interest, which was exactly what was happening to Marvel and Star Wars at the beginning of the 2000 era. So what he did was exactly right, and what they did with Star Wars now is exactly right. It's what needed to be done. Even though I love the extended universe of Star Wars, I have
there were some really good stories.
Yeah, there were brilliant books, a lot of brilliant books.
But there was also a lot of crap. You got to admit that.
Yes. I'm not denying that. I have examples of that in my pile of books. I'm not proud of that I own.
Karen Travis shot first.
Well, yes. Well,
Boba Fett was a joke. I said it. I don't care if people are mad. But in an extended universe, Boba Fett was a joke. He got knocked down into that Sarlacc like 3 fucking times. How many times do you get knocked down? No, seriously. It happened 2 other times. He got out. He made it because they wanted to use the character. He got out of the freaking thing, and he ends up in it twice.
Yeah.
And then he goes back for revenge to finally kill it because he has a vendetta against it instead of the people who threw him down there each time.
But
maybe it's more like preventive. Is like I know it's going to happen again unless I kill that thing.
Yeah. But we should go back to, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that DC doesn't, that people can buy DC. But the problem is DC does the same thing.
Oh yeah, they're going that route now too.
Yeah, and they had turned a pre-existing superhero into a Muslim, and that hero was, drumroll please, ISIS.
That's the thing. That has like I thought that was a joke at first. I thought that as a joke that somebody did that to be funny, and then when I found out that it was actually real, I was like, well, the people at DC haven't learned shit either.
No, exactly.
Like, you're literally watching Marvel burn itself to death right next to you, and hurt the rest of the industry in destroying themselves. And you want to go?
Marvel just poured gasoline on itself and lit the match. What a great light that gave to the world!
Yeah, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you saw what happened with the X-Men comic, where they actually let an actual anti-Semite write that shit.
Yeah.
Well, look, if they did it well, that'd be one thing. But how do you reconcile being a Muslim and an Egyptian goddess?
It doesn't make sense.
It's like Hercules, the Christian Avenger.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way.
My dad was Zeus. Have you heard the light of God?
Let's put it this way. You could do it, but you're going to need much better writers than they currently have to make it work.
Odin, atheist.
It's them trying to make...
Odin,
it's them trying to make... It's them trying to make a Muslim hero.
Yeah.
That won't sell just like Marvel's.
Yeah.
No.
Because Marvel has Miss Marvel right now, who basically, she's a brown Mr. Fantastic without the intelligence.
It's
literally, like,
I've got it. I've actually got it. The character of Isis inherits powers that have been bound up somewhere. The actual goddess Isis has been dead for thousands of years, and this becomes part of the origin story. And somehow she inherits the leftover powers that had been locked away by forces unknown. And so she now has to wrestle with her own religion. Did Allah do this? Is this the work of, if there were gods before and they've been destroyed, that gives you something to work with.
There you go. There you go. I told you, it's far better writers than them. And you just came
but
up
they're
with
just retconning it so she's a Muslim.
Yeah.
Because
Just we want to be culturally sensitive while ignoring what makes the culture what it is.
No, I knew they were going to get dumber because they didn't learn anything, because they're doing the Joker comic where Joker is basically a good social justice warrior trying to stop Batman, the rich.
He's been cured, and now he has to stop. Yeah.
Who the fuck is Kirk McKeegan? McKeon.
Who?
They ruined Joker with they ruined Joker with the Lazarus Pit bullshit to begin with, anyway.
No,
making it so that Joker's been around for fucking 100 or so years, and he only shows up to cause chaos and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he keeps coming back is because he keeps using the Lazarus Pit to come back. They basically said, "Oh well, Joker is Ra's al Ghul now."
Oh God, DC.
Have fun with that. So it's like, okay, they finally gave him an origin story, and it's like, okay, he's lost all of his majesty, because a big part of his majesty is you didn't know where he came from.
I think the problem that both of them have.
Yeah. Sorry.
If I can get this out real quick.
Yeah.
The problem both companies have is they want to tell different and new stories. They seem to be bored with what they already have, but they don't want to give up the value of the legacy.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And the problem I think it is this: whenever you see an author have some sort of character or universe, speaking strictly from the book world, if that changes author, the character usually devolves, because the character is no longer a representation of the original author. So I actually think that they need to start killing off characters that no longer have the original author connected to it. To be quite honest, they need to stop. They need to stop thinking of this as their absolute finished They need to allow the young new writers to come in, create new heroes, and then move from there. Because what they're doing now is just it's chaotic.
They've needed to do that for a good 30 years, Jan, but they don't.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I brought up the death and return of Superman.
Yeah.
Problem, because it killed comics. That was when the moment. That was the
That's
moment.
That's why Miles Morales is such a good character.
Because when
Spider-Man had to die.
Yeah. Miles Morales was a good character because he became the Uncle Ben for Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, the new Spider-Man movie is basically Ultimate Spider-Man the movie.
Okay. Cool.
It's literally that comic.
Yeah.
Well, which is why it's good. But when you look at what they did, the comics, they've been running these characters into the ground for the past 30 fucking years. The problem is you can't. They don't want to let go, and they don't want to start over.
No.
So they keep rebooting the universes that they already have, so they can try and slightly retell the stories to try and make them more interesting, or try and update them. Because they're too chicken shit to make new worlds.
Yeah, basically.
It's like when, all right, basically Icon and Static Shock were the creation of a man who created his own universe. Instead of saying, oh, well, Marvel and DC don't have enough black characters, change these characters to black, or add new black people, he made his own comic universe.
Yeah, and
that's where Icon and Static Shock come from. They got so popular that they got bought by DC and added to the DC universe. Well, he went and he made his own characters from his own universe.
Yeah.
And they got popular.
And that's
popular enough to get their own TV show.
That's why that's why I mentioned the connection to the literary world. Because if publishers in the literary world behaved, and some do, of course, some do. There are plenty of characters that have been written by different authors throughout time, and some have been done really well. But if some of the major publishers like Orbit or Tor or any of the other major sort of fantasy publishers had started to act in the way that Marvel and DC does, they would have lost so many goddamn readers, because people.
But
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like they've done it for so long that it's almost like they're terrified to right the ship.
Yeah.
Like if they just ended the Marvel and DC universes right now, no one would really care.
No, true.
Like they could
the bull rest of the shit. Clean slate.
Yeah.
Well, they've already done that several times. Sometimes they've been successful.
What I mean, a clean slate is don't bring back any of the old characters. Everyone's dead. Everything's brand new.
I would love that. I would love just a new Marvel universe from the ground up with none of the old characters whatsoever, and just do new stuff. But they're not going to do that because they're chicken shit. Then you could do all these social justice characters that you want, but you can have better writers for them to actually make them good.
Yeah, exactly.
Make your own characters, make a new continuity. It's when you say I'm going to change this character to culturally be the way I want it to, you're basically saying I'm too much of a chicken shit to make my own character.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take something that was already popular and been around forever and bastardize it because I'm too much of a chicken shit to go.
I know my character sucks, so I'm going to try and ride the coattails of this already popular character, but different.
Yeah,
I would have to say that probably the most egregious example of that has been Squirrel Girl so far.
Yep.
Oh, dude.
Who was Squirrel Girl? I mean, she started out as a goofball character, essentially throwaway gag that caught on because she was cute, she was funny, she was essentially a female Spider-Man. You know, absent the webbing and with squirrels. It's like, okay, this is fun, this is enjoyable. Now they've made her dumpy. They've got an artist who I've been informed deliberately draws as bad as she does.
Yeah, and she draws the character bad on purpose. She draws the comics bad on purpose just so she can upset comic fans. She does better artwork.
Yeah.
She's a super ideologue for what she believes in. And you literally have an artist and writer literally making things bad on purpose.
This is a postmodernist.
And she's allowed to keep her job.
Yeah, she's a postmodernist with a Marvel title.
Yep.
All the way through.
And you see how postmodernism ruins everything. I'm just saying.
God, you mentioned the P word. You've triggered.
It's true though. Her whole, as far as I can tell, her entire attitude is if X is what comic books are, i.e., things like great artwork and it is various gender norms and artistic norms and expectations of society. She just wants to subvert all of that for its own sake. And to me, that's always been like
the whole comic is basically masturbation.
It's like, why are you driving
if you actually read the comics,
150 miles an hour on the freeway? I'm subverting social norms.
No, the whole Squirrel Girl comic, if you actually read any of the schlock that it is self-masturbatory bullshit. Everybody loves her. Everybody thinks she's amazing.
A-list superheroes get a hold of her on social media to tell her how awesome she is.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I hang out with you at your party?
Let me take a selfie. It's wish fulfillment. All comics themselves, to some degree, are wish fulfillment of the writers and the artists themselves. That's always been the case. But These don't work because they're shallow. Like the people who were doing wish fulfillment before was like, I wish I could save the world. I wish I could help people. I wish
Well,
I
the
was
other thing
strong
is,
enough.
I
wish
wish I
like
could
all
beat them
fulfillment?
anti-Semites.
their wish
Yeah.
fulfillment isn't the wish
Now-
fulfillment of the people who buy comics.
Yeah,
Therefore, they
but these
fail.
these new comics, they're wish fulfillments for the people
I wish
writing them
Batman
now.
would come to
And
my
these
birthday.
people don't want to save the world. They don't want to be strong. They don't want to be bastions. They want to be loved and worshipped. And so
All of their
every
stories are
character
soap
that they
operas.
rewrite,
Yeah.
huh?
Their stories are soap operas.
Yeah.
They're not even soap operas. Soap operas are
almost
riveting and entertaining. In soap operas,
One
bad
of the-
things happen to the good characters.
Okay, this
The
is
good
true.
people.
There's actual struggle in a soap
There's
opera. That's
there's
true.
actual storytelling in soap operas, which is why people love them. A
And-
lot of storytelling.
And anyway,
Well, I mean,
we've been
yeah.
around the block on this topic
We have.
quite a bit now, so I think we need to move back to HBO because apparently hackers hacked into the servers that they had and pulled out a bunch of Ballers episodes, several other episodes from series, and also the script for the Sunday episode of Game of Thrones.
I love
In
ballers
will-
too. Those sons of bitches.
Yeah, Ballers is
In
great.
which Ned Stark wakes up and he's been in a coma this whole time dreaming.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
He got hit over the head.
people
by-
would die, dude. Don't make that joke. Somebody would get stabbed if they actually did that.
If it turned out to be a huge fucking VR experiment, like some of the
Because Game of Thrones is the
George R. R.
ultimate
Martin
fake
fans.
nerd show.
Yeah,
I'm calling it. It's the ultimate fake nerd show. It's so people can feel like they're nerds and into like nerd shit without actually being into it.
yeah.
I enjoyed it for the first couple of seasons or so, and then I realized that I was having the same problem with Game of Thrones that I had been having with Marvel Comics growing up. It was insulting my intelligence and going around in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually still like the show, even though that the latest couple of episodes, I thought the writing has become really, really, really bad. It's
Well,
The
'cause they
acting
can't
has
end the
usually been
show.
top notch. The
Yeah.
acting
They
and,
can't- the
and the
books-
aesthetics are good.
Yeah.
All right, George R. R. Martin hasn't finished the books.
no,
Okay.
exactly.
So they ran out of material quickly because he's I don't know what the fuck's wrong with him. I don't give a shit.
It seems
But
like they
the
copied
show's-
a lot of the dialogue from the books.
But the show itself
You interrupted
is-
me, dude. I was making a point and you interrupted me.
I was
Why are-
literally
So yeah, I'm sorry, but
don't complain
yeah,
about people interrupting.
go ahead.
Interception.
But the show itself is there as a moneymaker. And that's why they went off canon from the books. And now that they can do that, they are going to run this show into the ground, never ending for 13 seasons until people stop watching it.
Yeah.
And so that's why you don't see bad stuff happen to characters as it used to before, because they have to keep people around for 13 fucking seasons.
Yeah.
So nothing has weight, especially when, in a season you bring back a bunch of dead people to basically so death isn't permanent in the series. So they can bring anybody back from the dead, and it's just going to circle like that until people stop watching it.
Well, there is precedence in the books for that, anyways. But the thing I think has happened is that the reason why the writing on Game of Thrones has dropped is because they had a bunch of good conversations from the books in that they could just throw into the actual screenplays. And then they had a bunch of other writers that were really good that could also expand on that. But it seems like in the last couple of seasons, the last two seasons, they have either lost some genius in the writer staff, or they no longer know how have dialogue between the characters, because
it's because they're off book.
Yeah, exactly. Because the especially the conversation between what's her name again, Missandei and Grey Worm at Dragonstone, right before they, had sex or whatever. I'm not sure how he's gonna, perform, but I don't care. But the scene there was so fucking straightforward. They were just saying the same. They were saying what they were thinking, not what they wanted to, portray. People don't always say what they think, but they change their mind while they're thinking or while they're speaking as well. So it just seemed like it was taken directly out, like some straightforward guy was just...
That was speaking in subtext,
yes,
instead of speaking the things that people normally put lines.
They were speaking in subtext and not regular. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by the chewing in the background. I don't know. Anyways, the idea.
You hear that?
Yeah, we can hear that. The idea that they could just move on, even though the story wasn't done, the entire story arcs of every character wasn't
That's
done.
what pisses you off, because you're a writer and you're like,
yeah.
Oh, no, they had to. No, you don't understand. George R. R. Martin was supposed to have the books to continue the series out years ago, like half a decade ago, and he didn't put it out. He still hasn't released the damn book, even though there's no pressure whatsoever to do the book because the show's going on without him.
Yeah.
If not for the HBO show, he would have been sued for breach of contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that really frustrates me about him as a writer as well, because he doesn't seem to care at all about losing the community, because especially after he's gotten worse.
Because he's
after,
rich.
Yeah,
he got rich. He doesn't care anymore.
No, but that shouldn't fucking matter.
Actually,
I mean, Stephen King still
cares
about
it shouldn't, but it does, Jen.
I know.
Shitty people exist.
I know.
When he went south, okay? And it is when he got a Hugo Award. It's after he got a Hugo Award, he started developing the attitude that fans who have problems with authors are toxic, because he fell in with that crowd from the Hugo Awards.
Yeah. There you go.
And so now if somebody says, you really need to finish this stuff, oh, you're just an entitled blah, blah, I can do whatever.
Yeah.
It's amazing how everything that's terrible about things traces back to that lot.
Well, it's I don't fall into absolutisms when it comes to ideologies and so on.
It's not an absolutism, it's just a simple observation.
Well,
he's noticing a trend.
Well, I'm not gonna blame them for everything when it comes to a sort of lazy writer.
I'm not blaming them for everything. I'm just saying,
he's blaming them for that.
When you look down at things,
yeah,
and you start to notice a particular pattern emerging,
yeah,
then I have to point it out. I'm just like, that seems to be a common theme.
Yeah, I'm still anticipating Winds of Winter, but I don't think I'll read it before a couple of years after the show is done, because it doesn't seem like he has the inclination.
No, he's gonna die before that book comes out. You know that, right?
I don't know.
He's just gonna drop dead from heart disease or diabetes. Because he's not keeping himself healthy.
Yeah.
So
that might happen, but
and then they're going to hire some dumb hack, Hugo Award winner to fucking finish his books. And you're really gonna hate that.
Yeah, at least Robert Jordan had the sense to hire Brandon Sanderson to finish The Wheel of Time when he died, and that was. And
he left plenty of notes too.
Yeah. He left the entire. Yes. He had the entire premise for the last book, and then Brandon Sanderson read it and said, "There's not one book here. There's 3." and just split it up and wrote the
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Which is why I recommend, instead of jumping on A Song of Ice and Fire and reading that, even though it is a very good fantasy series, read Mark Lawrenson, especially the Broken Empire trilogy, and also Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time, and also Steven Erikson, which I've gotten into as of late, who is fucking amazing at writing so complex that he loses people.
I hear that this guy who came out with this new series called Ismark the Mark Boy is pretty good.
Yes. Well, I was trying to go an entire show without mentioning my book, but thank you.
Oh, bullshit, Jed.
No,
we did last week. Remember when you forgot?
Yeah, dude, I was fever sick. That was not conscious.
We were waiting on it the whole show because he does it every show, and it didn't happen.
He's going the outro, and I'm just like, he's not going to do it.
As soon as we went off air, I bring up that he didn't bring up his book, and he's like, "Fuck."
Anyways, the HBO leaks show what I wanted to discuss about the HBO leak is this: why the fuck are they storing future episodes on servers instead of having them in internal networks?
It seems like the kind of thing that you would put on paper.
Air gap security is.
Yeah.
It would seem like the kind of thing that you would put on paper.
Yeah.
And stash away in a vault instead of putting don't put anything you don't want to get out on a computer at all these days.
But that's the thing. Everybody in production, especially for TV and movies these days, everybody wants everything to be available, to be modified and edited on the fly immediately. Like right now, where's that script? We want to put in this scene and take out that line, and they want it immediately available. So you got to have it on, not only on a server somewhere, but accessible from outside.
Yeah.
Because nobody works in an office anymore. You don't have like an office in Hollywood with 500 screen rate.
I realize that, and I know that that's how the industry works. Because I actually do some work from time to time for that industry, so I know. But it's still really, really weird that they keep entire episodes on a server that isn't air gapped. It blows my mind that people still think that just
the server's still got to be accessible.
Look, you know how
it's still got to be remotely accessible, so stuff can be modified.
Here's how you make it
still a security risk, man.
No, it can still be remotely modified, yet make the system more secure. It's just real simple. You ring someone up and go, I need X, Y, or Z file on the network. And then they walk over to one machine and they plug in a USB stick, and then they pull that out and they walk back over to the other machine and they put that in there. The person does their work, then they move it back to the air gap machine and delete it off the main machine.
That's the problem. Nobody wants to do that. Because they would have to hire a person to do that all day. No, it would take adding a person to actually move from point A to point B.
Actually, 3 people, because you need to think in 8-hour cycles.
You could do it with a robot that requires a simple dial-in system.
Oh, and then you can hack the robot.
No, you can't, because you would need to know the phone number.
I like that idea though, as a dial-in
and no one
system,
uses modems anymore.
No, but you see, that's the thing. No. Matthew Broderick would have access to everything.
Typed out on paper is the only way it's ever going to be safe.
And that is why Art only writes in
smartphone cameras
on toilet paper, just in case.
Come on. Scripts were being leaked back in the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah, but there were heists involved, and those heists were interesting. And could have TV series or movies based on them.
The script heist.
Yeah.
The raiding of Skywalker Ranch. Which is an actual movie.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if we were to do that now and to make this event into a movie, we'd have to have like a 3D file system.
Yeah.
Oh God! So somebody could like surf the dark web. Look out! I see.
Yes, they'll be getting on their virtual surfboard. That's black, and all the lights turn out.
Never fall off your board, or it fries your brain.
Speaking of
It's so camp. If you did it as a comedy, it'd probably be awesome.
Speaking of online security, YouTube has a new policy, which we're probably currently breaking for some fucking
no.
reason.
It's not part of the terms of service. So
But haven't we mentioned Donald Trump at some point?
No.
It's controversial topics. So if we were to talk about which captain is better in Star Trek, that would be considered controversial to a lot of people.
Well,
Therefore,
I say Shatner. Well, I say Kirk now because of the last week's event.
Because
you think William Shatner's a trigger word now?
Let us talk about Schindler's List. We've been banned.
Yeah.
No, the whole
all right. By Nazis.
This goes out to all the people who are like, well, YouTube is just going to, and they're not going to go overboard with this, and they're like, no, people have been telling you YouTube was going to do this. People have been telling you YouTube was going to do this for years. You've been warned. People shouted. People screamed, and you told them they were crazy. Well, guess what? The shit hits the fan. You either say what YouTube wants you to say, or you don't get to make money, and you don't get to make videos. You are neutered. You have no choice. You're fucked. You could have fought it, but you didn't. And the sad thing about it is all the YouTubers bitching about it now, still too pussy to leave.
Yeah.
You could go to VidMe, you could go to Dailymotion, you could go to other sites.
Minds actually
but you're too cowardly to leave YouTube.
Minds actually is you can make money off Minds right now. So yeah. There's always opportunities. That's it.
But they don't want to The only reason YouTube has gained this type of power and kind of control is because people are too fucking chicken shit to leave.
Yeah. Well, it's the idea of leaving into the unknown. A lot of people are very comfortable where they are right now, and going out into the unknown is
it'd be different if there weren't YouTubers that have that are basically left YouTube, and gone other places and been extremely successful, like Twitch.
We're discussing concepts of law and social acceptance right now. I don't want to interrupt this too early, though, because I'm just looking at MSNBC shitting the bed at this moment on Twitter.
Oh.
Quote, historians slam White House remarks about the Statue of Liberty. It's like saying the Bill of Rights doesn't count. Because apparently the poem on the Statue of Liberty, they want to be treated as law.
The poem on the Statue of Liberty is not law.
I'm like,
it's a poem on a statue.
It's inspirational poetry, but
it's inspirational poetry.
As
the
somebody,
Constitution, the Bill of Rights.
Yes, that's law.
That's law. They were made
not
for
a
the purpose of law.
And for those who may not have heard, there's an argument between Jim Acosta over at CNN, if I recall correctly, and some guy at the White House about immigration. And he's saying, well, it says on the Statue of Liberty, blah, blah, blah. And he's going, are you saying that's supposed to be the law of the land? It's a great poem, but at what point do we have immigration policies that violate this and therefore we should discard them? I'm sorry, this is a hell of a tangent here, but it's the sort of mentality you get into when you get fuzzy with the rules.
Well, it's the same attitude of the people who wanted to make the Ten Commandments part of law by having them associated to a courthouse. So it's yeah.
Well, nobody actually.
No.
People were claiming that was going to be the thing, and saying you need to take down the 10 Commandments because there's separation of church and state. I'm like, so these people all along were saying if you have the 10 Commandments up, that means that's the rule of the land too.
No, yes,
have no other God but God. What?
Man, if adultery is a law that can be broken, a lot of people in this country are fucked.
Yep.
Respect that parents or go to jail.
Well, there are people who claim that, you know, Western society is founded on the 10 Commandments. That's not completely true. It's far more complex than that. Anyway. But the reason why I compared it is that it's the poem on the Statue of Liberty is both inspired and has inspired United States policy, but it's not law. No. It's a source of inspiration.
It's a suggestion.
Yes, it's a suggestion. No. Exactly. It's the same suggestion you would find in the Bible.
That is the poem that was written in order to raise money for the pedestal that the Statue of Liberty sits upon. That is its entire significance.
It would have been incomplete otherwise.
Yeah.
And as a favor to the person who wrote it, the lady who wrote it, they put it on a nice piece of iron and stuck it on the pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is all. That is it. That is the entire story. It doesn't matter what the poem says.
Yeah, well, on top of everything else, I'm trying to remember Stephen Miller, who he's a Jewish guy that they're calling a Nazi, of course.
Of course.
That's
the famous Jewish Nazis.
They're like shooting his face onto various Nazi figures, and saying, "See, look at this guy. He doesn't want any immigrants to come." Yeah. He made an excellent point. It's like, well, when immigration was like at 500,000 a year back during the 1990s, was that a violation of the so-called law, liberty law of the land? And Acosta couldn't answer that. He would is like, well, when it was 100,000, was a violation? When it was 800,000, was that a violation? So if we pull it back from 1 million where it is now to 500,000 where it was in the 90s, how is this a violation but that wasn't? And they just want to go like, oh, you use the word cosmopolitan as an insult.
Being cosmopolitan is an insult. Fuck all nobles.
Get out of your urban bubble, for God's sake.
No. Fuck them.
These people want to argue about all this crap. They want, I guess this kind of goes back to the YouTube thing. YouTube is developing a set of rules that are so vague, but at the same time with such draconian punishments.
Yeah.
That virtually anybody can be punished for anything. And I think that's what these people want. These people want laws that aren't really laws, that are laws that you can just argue whatever you want into them.
They just want total complete. They want to be able to control minds.
The rules don't apply to them. They think the rules don't apply to them.
They literally want to make what you think that doesn't comply with them illegal. That's all. And YouTube's been itching this way forever. And you saw it when they demonetized the people who were talking about sex in a positive way on YouTube and doing positive sex ed. And you saw how the SJWs got hit with that shit too, and it was like, fuck, yeah, censorship comes to you too. And yeah, it's YouTube's platform and they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. But people need to fucking leave.
I'll tell you what, I'm
going
to be doing a lot of reporting on all the videos I don't like. If it violates even the slightest amount of policy, I'm going to report them. I do not give a fuck. You made the rules. You will live by the fucking rules. I don't care. I'll make
anything entertaining is non-compliant whatsoever.
Yeah,
you could do a 2-hour long.
I'm coming for you. Just on your name alone.
You could do a 2-hour long video, but you make a gay joke and bam.
Chunk, you genocide denying faggot. I'm coming for you.
Oh damn.
Speaking of which, are we going to talk about the fact that he got trounced by Ben Shapiro?
How does that happen? It's David and Goliath all over again.
That's like, come on, you got
Ben's this
about
tiny
Ben
little
Shapiro.
Jewish guy, and he's up against this giant Turk. It's. I mean, it's perfect.
Well, to be fair to Ben is a fast-talking, fast-thinking dude who knows what he's talking about for a
And
vast
Cenk
amount
is
of...
a Philistine.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's the thing, is that Cenk is good with a teleprompter, and he's not even that good with a teleprompter. But he's also very good when he keeps getting affirmations. When people keep, clapping for him whenever he says something. That's why they started. That's why they started doing the live show, which is exactly when I stopped watching them, because doing live shows
I know about
when you're
that
doing
debate
commentary on the
was
news,
he ended it with "You're a racist"
hell.
and then a failed USA chant.
Yeah.
That's what I know about that whole thing. And I heard that and I went, that means he lost.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say right off the bat, I have not had respect for Ben Shapiro for a long time because he got into it with Milo. Because this is the thing.
Yeah.
Milo at least understands you have to have some presentation to get through to people, or all the facts in the world doesn't matter. Yeah. Ben worked against Cenk here because he was the antithesis character. You had a comparison. When Ben is by himself just talking, he's boring as hell.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree.
Professor.
I don't agree. I like Ben's way of presenting things, because you don't always need to scream and shout to be able to get people's attention.
That's not what I said.
No.
That's not what I said.
I know.
What I mean is that he's dry like a professor. It kind of zones out.
Yes.
But when you have something bringing the fire, something keeping your attention, is like, Cenk says some bullshit. Ben takes the wind out of it. It's like, okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, and
that's another thing. Like debating Cenk Uygur is it's just not difficult. Cenk isn't exactly an intelligent guy. He's just a very, very he was the left's version of Bill O'Reilly. He's a loud, boisterous, angry man that shouts whatever political ideals you agree with.
He's a smart guy, but he's not a thinker.
Think for him.
He's
not a thinker. He doesn't think for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
He basically, and that's the thing. Like, if he were actually honest, he'd be a really right-wing dude. But
I don't think he would survive on Bill Maher.
Yeah, he wouldn't. Because
Bill Maher
whenever
would take
he's
him
challenged,
and do so politely.
Whenever that's why everybody who used to challenge him on the Young Turks is now gone.
Yeah.
Well,
not Ben.
He's the star.
Ben's still there.
Anna used to do it, but now she doesn't.
Yeah, Ben still does it, but he's still there, as far as I know. I haven't watched it. Ben Mankiewicz.
He doesn't challenge him on anything.
No, I said when.
They challenge him on movies and entertainment stuff.
Well, not just that. He's also challenged him during the election campaign. He kept on, as far as I know, the little I've seen, he kept pushing him on things like, well, if people don't agree with you, you just paint them as pure evil. That's Ben
which was an excellent point.
Yes, which is a good point, and I that's why I still like Ben Mankiewicz, because he actually understands that, okay, we need to get along in this world. We can't just paint everybody who disagrees with us as evil, which is one of the reasons why I don't understand why Ben is still there. It might be because he's
he'll probably be gone soon.
Well, he's one of the founding members, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Maybe they can't get rid of him.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, maybe they can. If he has some type of ownership, that's probably why. Yeah. But it's a situation where Cenk just doesn't understand the majority of the crap he spouts out.
Yeah.
Like, this was a dude who was too extreme for MSNBC. Think about that. Because they had him on there for a little bit. They had him replacing people, and he just sounded like an idiot.
Here's your weekly reminder that MSNBC's CEO says that they are not, in fact, a news organization.
They're a commentary.
Yeah,
So-
they're a commentary.
They're commentary,
Which
and
means they're allowed to
entertainment.
lie.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
means they're allowed to lie.
As long as you say this is my opinion and you can't prove otherwise.
no, exactly, and that's why commentary.
Which is
stuff
why you have
just-
Alex Jones.
Yeah, which is
Which is
why
why
that-
none of them are actually news.
Yeah, which is why
Yes.
you muddy the water severely when you do that. It should piss off liberals as much as it pisses off conservatives, because it should piss off both sides, because it's not helping anybody reach any sort of consensus whatsoever. Ever since
They're
that
not
they
trying to
started,
reach
no,
consensus.
I know, because they're just trying to entertain people, but that's my point, is that people should just stop watching it. They just cut it out.
People aren't that smart.
No,
They're not.
No,
They're not going to leave. They're not going to leave YouTube.
No,
They're not going to turn off cable news.
Well, we're still on YouTube, so we shouldn't really say that.
Hi, YouTube.
We're
we
not
love you.
monetizing.
No, that's true.
That's true. That's as long as you don't care about making any money or anybody seeing your stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's the new algorithm, right? They don't just they don't demonetize you. They just make sure that nobody sees your shit.
Yeah.
Never shows up.
Oh, and you can't get likes or comments on your video either.
No, exactly.
Mhm.
So
That's what the
which-
hell. Seriously.
should we?
Yeah.
Whose bright idea was
Should
that?
we tackle the topic of the show?
According to certain rumors from the hacker known as Foreskin, Anita Sarkeesian is involved.
Dun dun dun.
That's a
dun,
rumor,
dun.
and there's no proof of it, but it wouldn't
That's
fucking
why.
surprise
That's
me.
why I used the word rumor and foreskin.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. At all.
No one would be surprised. If it is true, I can guarantee you there's some autist out there searching for the evidence to link it together, and if they find it,
because they
holy
love
shit.
filleting her anyway because they're
What the hell are you guys
ideological
talking
morons.
about? What the hell? I that's not what I was talking about. I was
basically there's rumors going around that Anita Sarkeesian is the one deciding
she's involved,
What's going
heavily
on
involved,
at YouTube?
and
helping
the
decide
ADL is a
politics.
front. Is a front,
Yeah, and the
they're
ADL is
taking
a
the hit
front
for her.
basically for her.
Oh yeah.
Deciding
What?
when
Okay,
you
okay.
should
Now
and
I'm going to
shouldn't
call
be on
bullshit on
YouTube.
that one.
Yeah.
That's more along the lines of the ADL buying into her bullshit because she's on top at this point.
On top of what?
Well, essentially on top of the victimhood heap, and she still is.
Yeah.
She's ever since she made it into Time, she got the attention of high value victim mongers.
Yeah.
And so she hasn't
But
she hasn't had as much coverage anymore. But when she does, it's usually with some high profile outfit.
She's not fucking Rome, okay? Not every
Yeah.
goddamn problem on the left can be traced back to Anita Sarkeesian.
No, but I
No,
think
she's
the reason
more
that
like
this is
gold.
coming up is because the whole VidCon thing.
Yeah,
And
I know,
Yeah.
but I think people are
No,
trying
because
to
Google.
look
All
at-
right, you have
yeah.
to remember that Google.
Like I said,
Oh my God,
It's
you have
rumor?
to remember that Google, for the most part,
Yeah.
owns YouTube, and the Google Trust and Safety Council was a thing. Honestly, I think she might have been the only person to survive out of that still has any type of
Yeah.
social sway. So they probably did go to her about what they want to stop and what they want. It wouldn't surprise me that they were taking suggestions from her.
Speaking
And honestly, I don't care because YouTube is
Yeah.
a fucking cesspool.
anyways, speaking of people who think they're
It's
victims,
a lost cause.
Yeah, speaking of people who think they're victims, Laura Loomer and her tires.
I am so tired of this already.
I
I will go crazy on somebody about this.
Seriously, we'll slash this
Just get all
topic
the
in
funds
half,
out.
and then we'll move on. Okay, don't worry.
I'm just going to belt somebody.
Just get them out, Roy.
Okay, let's sum up. The
I'm going to
story
blow
first.
out this topic if you
Yeah.
don't settle it out.
Let's
I'm
just.
going to set up a rubber ethnostate called White Wall.
Hey, don't talk to me or my tire ever again. Okay, Stop it.
Okay.
Let's
Don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me. Okay, are we done? Are we done? Are we done?
I'm done. Oh.
I think that was the best short
It's
topic
a
we've
shame
ever
you
had.
just see
No,
people.
we already
just-
have the flag. We have the flag. It's that one flag from
Yeah.
frickin' Homestar.
Yeah.
From Homestar Runner, that one flag that has the rubber tire on it.
Yes. It's
It's
brilliant.
just sad to see so many people bounce ideas off the rubber like this.
Yeah.
It's-
Are you done now? Are you done now? Because we need to present the actual.
I only did
fucking
one, okay?
we need to actually present the topic so there's no, mistakes out there. So people.
What are all these
Crazy,
puns about? What are they talking
ideologue
about?
thinks her old ass tires were slashed.
Yeah.
When her tire looks like she hasn't changed the fucker out in a good 10 years.
It's got dry
Someone
rot.
went in looked at them. It's a tire from like 2006.
Yeah. It should have been changed.
Okay, I'll do this.
So it's
real quick for
literally a
anybody who's
10-year-old
listening
fucking
and caring.
tire.
One at a time.
For
one at a
anyone
time.
who's actually listening and caring, the baseline here is that the same crazy lady who went up and charged the stage on that one Trump play where they were doing the assassination of Julius Caesar, that woman who tried stopping that play, she and a couple of other guys have constantly tried to wedge themselves back into the media with victim narratives.
Yeah. So.
And so she did this one thing showing her tire had been blown out and saying, somebody slashed my tire a week after I've been doxxed.
Yeah.
And that became a meme overnight.
Yeah. Because
She's a right-wing social justice warrior.
It's like
She's
somebody posted
exactly the same as them and the other side.
Yeah.
So somebody posted the
Tilting at
Hindenburg
windmills.
going down and saying somebody slashed my dirigible a week after I've been doxxed.
Well, not tilting at windmills, tilting at freaking white walls, I guess.
She literally
Yes.
said, "I'm not going to defend you if you won't defend me and my
My
tire."
tire.
Don't talk to me on my tire ever again.
Yeah.
It's clear to me that this is somebody who they want the limelight, they want the attention. They're essentially, like you said, a right wing SJW.
Yeah.
And
She's
it
pulling out all
just
the same
blew back
tactics.
up in their faces. We're not taking this shit from her any more than from
I
the
just
media
put her.
studies.
I just put her in the category as a right wing version of Tariq Nasheed.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
And
Yeah.
or who
Well, you
was
know,
it?
rubber
Who was it?
plantations have long been a source of colonialism by the law.
Was it Brianna Wu who kept seeing swastikas everywhere?
No, that was what's her face?
Was that?
I know who you're talking about. It's the name doesn't come to mind.
Oh.
No, Brianna Wu was the one who saw moon rocks everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's still. That's exactly the problem when you start using those types of tactics, because eventually the other side will start using it. Yeah. Well, yes, but
Yeah, but that's the
it.
thing, though.
Like,
They
there's
see-
no
entirely happy to
thinking
call
away
it out.
around it. There's
Yeah.
no logical. No, they're attention whores. If she had gotten attention from the left, she'd be trying to hustle on the left for attention. Just
Yes,
they're attention whores.
Yeah. Well,
And
Yeah, it's just
she tried to do this to get attention because she thought people were dumber than her, but that's a really low bar. And she got
I
caught,
actually
and so
kinda
now she's a joke.
yeah. Well,
I mean, if
kinda
she really
think that
wanted
this is a
to
good
get
thing.
attention, she could have gone out with a big kitchen knife and stabbed her own tire, and it would have looked legit.
Yeah, she could have done
Yeah.
that herself, and then it's like, oh, the police said.
Here's the thing.
Well, what's funny is she said the police said, right?
Oh,
she said
yeah.
the police said that her tires were slashed. And people were like, well, can we see the police report?
Yeah.
Cricket.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want proof. We're used to this bullshit. I think this is probably the best thing of the whole thing. Even when it comes from quote unquote our side or people that you might think we would be allied with in one fashion or another, we're just as willing.
I'm not. I'm laughing.
I'm just saying. Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying that even for people that you might think would be,
Yeah,
because she's big pro Trump and she's all this other stuff, and Jack Babosiak is the other guy
Yeah.
that she's with. You know, it's like these guys are big pro-Trumpers. And it's like, look, we don't care who you support. It's bullshit. We're not buying it.
Yeah.
I think that
The
says a
thing
lot
is,
more
insurance
You
will
make
take
us
care.
look dumb by believing it.
Anybody who knows how to fuck with people will know that you don't slash just one tire, because insurance that'll be replaced. You slash 3 tires because insurance will do 1 tire or 4, but they won't do 3. So if you want to mess with somebody, you slash 3 tires.
See, here's a guy who knows what he's talking
helpful
about.
tips from Artivous Ira, everybody.
You don't.
Tomorrow, someone's going to have 3 tires slashed, and they're going to come looking for us.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Today on Savage Society with Artivous Ira.
No.
It's that kind of thing where if somebody were going to do this, why would they just slash 1 tire?
Yeah. Well, but I'm serious.
And why would it be the tire that looks like it's about to to?
Okay.
No,
I will say one thing.
I
this
just
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I do think there's something in the idea of not using tactics that you know can be used against you in general. The playing the victim can work on both sides of the spectrum. Playing authoritarian can work on both sides of the spectrum, and it can be used against you on both sides of the spectrum. That's why I say
because
that
it's not a left-right problem.
No, exactly. It's not a left-right problem. It's more of a it's a tactics problem. So that's why
it's an authoritarian problem.
Well, not just authoritarian. I wouldn't say that people who seek to be victims necessarily are authoritarians. They
are. They're a different tactic. They're using. It's still about control.
Yes,
it is using a different way.
Yes. It is about control. But I wouldn't necessarily say that people who try to play off the victim necessarily are thinking that far. That if I do this, I can enforce these laws. No. But it's more of a
subconsciously.
It's a prevalence thing. It's
I would argue on some level they do.
I should make one other point here is that if all she had done was take the photo, say my tire was slashed. Oh my God, this is a week after I'd been doxxed, and then it comes back. I mean, because you can see it's rot. Okay,
yeah,
it kind of looks like a slash in that it's horizontal, and if she's just ignorant, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But as soon as it started coming, as soon as she started doubling down, as soon as people started calling it out, that would have been the moment to like, okay, I was wrong, my bad, I was doxxed last week. But it turns out that there's a point where you have to retreat and not keep.
She could have walked that back and not look like a complete twat.
Instead, she doubled down. I'll tell you what, I've seen tires like that. I could cause that so-called slash mark by kicking that tire.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Maybe it was just somebody with a steel-toe boot coming up.
That tire,
literally. No, not even a steel toe. Look, I could kick that thing barefoot and it would have
run along a curb quite a few times as well.
Oh, yeah. Now you see the pitting on the wall. It's got dry rot, for God's sake.
Yeah,
I've seen the rim also laying out in the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
it's a 10-year-old tire. Come on.
Yeah. It's ancient.
No, it is.
As you pointed out, because the sales code on the thing shows how old it is.
Well, it's the fact as well that she was doxxed earlier in the week may have played into it, and she may have been sort of. I wouldn't say.
Again,
no. You're trying to say, Jan. You just say that she may have some paranoia and move on.
Yeah, that's
Jan,
what I mean.
Okay.
I would have been fine with that if she didn't turn around and go, the cop said it was slashed, and I took it round to the repair guy, and he said it was slashed.
Yeah,
that's when you know it was complete bullshit.
Oh yeah. Because if
why would she try and repair that tire?
No, but exactly. But the idea that if she had done what Roy said, walked it back when people started confronting her with it, then I would have just chalked it up to she was just panicky because she was doxxed and she's
panicky
worried.
and ignorant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would have been fine with that. That's fair enough, but that's not what happened.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it was clear that she wanted to have this big dramatic thing and get people on her side, and just totally backfired on her.
Yeah,
She wanted the victimhood, and it backfired.
Yeah,
just like her tire.
Yeah.
Okay, two.
No, the car's gonna backfire and say someone's shooting at her.
Yeah. Muslims.
Snipers from Bosnia.
Yeah. Oh.
Libyans.
Oh, Jesus.
Look out, Marty.
Look out. Great Scott.
1.21 gigawatts.
Anyways, should we move on to the chaos that's going on in the White House?
Woohoo!
Because
Chaos.
it's
Chaos has
crazy.
triumphed over control.
It's
insert picture of unicorn dancing happily.
for someone who's not in the U.S. and is belabored with having to read the Norwegian media to get some of the information, even though I get a lot of it from other sources or far more reliable. It does seem it still seems a bit chaotic to fire your your communications director after 10 days. But then again,
working for Trump does not equal job security.
No, exactly. We already know this.
He's always been. This is a dude who had a reality show about firing people.
Yeah.
He's not gonna keep people around if he could replace them.
Oh,
and
it's been a cycle of my reality show. You're fired. Exactly.
Yeah, people need to remember something that's going on here is we have a 2 and possibly even 3-way civil war on the inside of American government right now.
Yeah.
And so much of the stuff is just going on behind the scenes, but you see it peek out every now and again because there does come a point where the rubber has to hit the road, not to get back to that. And when it does, it usually means somebody's being fired or being charged with something. Apparently,
you mean they're getting their job slashed?
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
They've already... Okay, in this same line here, if
it gets rid of the rod, I'm fine with it.
Oh, God damn it! Stop!
And following the same thread, there's been 4 staffers apparently already fired from the White House for leaking.
Like
a tire?
And we've got Mueller. Yeah, 4 people have been fired. Apparently 4
should have had some tire in there.
Oh, Mueller... This is all coming together at once. Mueller has declared the impaneling of a grand jury, meaning that somebody thinks that there's enough evidence to possibly convince a jury to convict somebody. Yeah. You don't go forward with a grand jury unless you have something. So Mueller's got something, and a lot of people are saying, oh, this is on Trump, this is on Trump. But I'm like, at this point, there's 3 different factions that could have dirt on him. He could be investigating Hillary in conjunction with the Russia investigation, could be investigating Manafort. He could be investigating the leaking staffers because a lot of their leaks were related to the Russia thing. We have no idea. But if 4 people got fired for leaking, that's a crime in and of itself most of the time. So I'd give
they could just
3 to 2 odds that it's a leaker that's being charged.
Or they could just be slashing the budget by getting rid of people. Just know. I'm gonna no, but
let's just let the air out. Let's just let the air out of that whole pump.
Yeah. That was a bad one. No, but it does feel like there is
like they're running flat.
Yeah, God damn it. We're not gonna stop making tire jokes today. Just deal with it.
Can we get a rim shot here?
Let's get back on the road.
See, that one was actually good.
Yeah, and no, but it does feel like there is some sort of serious, and there always is. There's always a political game in any sort of
you know what I think
position.
It is.
But it does feel like there is seriously more chaotic than usual.
Because we don't see
a lot of
anything. What we're getting is trickled out. Honestly, I think Trump got into office and legitimately tried to do everything he said that he was going to try and do in office.
Yeah.
And then got and met the wall that is the nepotism in our fucking government.
Imagine that you're looking at a chess game where the two players are hunched over the board. You can't see the board, but you see pieces coming off the board left and right.
Yeah. That's
it's like, who's even winning right now? You can't tell. You just see that there's a lot of stuff getting knocked aside.
Yeah, exactly. And the people who claim to know what is happening aren't necessarily seeing the entire chessboard either. They might
they're getting a glimpse of one quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, he's castled up over here. That's bad.
Yeah. It does appear to me that there is definitely some resistance from some sort of deep state entity, and but there also seems to be some sort of civil war within the actual administration, because that's
kind of always been the case, to be perfectly honest. Especially with
natural.
The alphabet soups, because they've always been fighting each other for funding to begin with.
Yeah.
Which is why the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI really, really don't like each other.
Yeah.
So the chances of one of those organizations working with Trump to try and get funding that would have went for the others is a distinct and very real possibility. I think because of the nepotism and the people who were basically put in charge of these organizations were basically appointed by leftists, there was that immediate rebellion that our government is going after our president to try and do anything to try and hurt him. But within those organizations are large swaths of people who want to stop that. So it's more of, it just feels like an insane amount of shakeup in each of these organizations that are trying to decide, well, are we doing what's right or are we doing what's political?
Are you trying to say that they're trying to deflate him?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to check. No, but it does appear to someone from the outside of the U.S. that there is. I mean, this is the level of sort of intrigue you usually get to hear about 8 years after a president has had his final term.
Oh yeah, see, that's why you're hearing all of these leaks, because they're trying to leak everything and anything that he does in any way, shape, or form, hoping that it will stick.
Yeah.
Anything.
Because they are worried.
And no matter what he does, they're going to, like, the phone conversations went up, but those phone conversations sounded like he was trying to haggle with these people.
Yeah, and it does.
It's like, he was trying to beg them to do this. Like, no, he's trying to haggle. He's trying to make deals.
He's playing the ignorant sort of other party in a business deal. That's actually a legitimate. That's
right out of his book.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right out of the yard of the deal.
So it. I know how it looks, and I can kind of see that. Oh, this is not very presidential the way that he's acting. Well, that's the thing. No. Stop right there.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
nobody voted for him to be presidential.
No,
nobody voted him to be what we had before. Nobody voted for him to be the status quo. They wanted an asshole businessman to get shit done.
Yeah.
That's it. He doesn't need to be like that's why they're so upset with him, and he pisses them off so fucking much because he doesn't care what they think of him.
No, exactly.
That's literally all their power.
Yeah.
They had 8 years with the president that made them feel wonderful and filleted them like crazy and made them feel like they were special, and even though he was doing things policy-wise that were totally against everything they claimed to believe in.
Well,
they have a guy that's like, no, I'm going to do what I want. Fuck you. I'm going to do what the people who voted for me said they wanted. Fuck you. And that drives them nuts he's blatantly said that I don't need the media. I have Twitter. I have social media. Well, I can speak to people directly and subvert you. That's why, like, he keeps cycling press secretaries. He doesn't give a shit about the press. He doesn't give a shit about the press secretary. He would be upset if they actually banned him from Twitter. Then he would have a problem.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to propose a theory here, and let me finish before you rant on, Art. Because the idea I had is that when Obama came into office, he had all these ideals and dreams and so on that he was talking about when he came in, and maybe he started to work more with the deep state and chuck those ideas away because he realized, I'm never going to be able to get this. I'm going to focus on one thing, and that's the health reform. And then when Trump came into office, the sort of deep administration, the bureaucracy, basically, the deep state, confronted Trump in the same way that they had Obama, and Obama may not be as,
Obama could have fought it.
Yeah,
Obama could have fought if he wanted to. That's one of the problems about the situation.
Obama wanted to be loved.
Let me
Obama
finish.
wanted to be loved. He didn't want to be.
Let me finish first.
Yeah, go ahead.
The idea is that when Trump came into office, Obama, I'm not going to call him spineless, but he may have been more agreeable of a person than Trump, because Trump is far on the disagreeable spectrum of the big five traits. He is definitely one of the people who will compete on it. Yeah. So when he came into office, he was definitely not as agreeable as Obama, and therefore he doesn't stroke the deep state with the hairs, basically.
Because he doesn't have to.
Congress and Senate already.
That's the difference between somebody who's that's the difference between somebody who's independently wealthy and someone who is relying off of the government for a paycheck. When Barack Obama got into office, there was a feeding frenzy of people trying to buy him out and buy his love and because he could push anything and get it done for the most part because he had public support like that. Yeah. It was crazy. But with Trump, I already have my own money. I don't need your money. I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying because you can't buy somebody who's richer than you.
One thing that I'll say in Obama's defense is that when he came in, he was probably very earnest about what he wanted to do.
Oh yeah.
And then he met his
that's why I voted for him.
No. It's not Obamacare. That was number 6 on his list for his agenda.
Yeah.
It was not what he was elected for. It was not the big thing. Big thing was supposed to be the economy. The problem was he gets in there and then meets with his party leadership, which says, well, you know what? We really wanted Hillary, but you won. And so here's what you're going to do or we'll block you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was big on closing Guantanamo, if I remember rightly.
That's the thing. Healthcare was the only thing he ran on that he imagined to quote unquote accomplish.
Yeah.
And it was the middle of the list.
It was in the middle of the list. Like he was supposed to crack down on Wall Street for the things that happened in the first place. That never happened. They got their bailouts. Fuck them.
Stop the cracking down on whistleblowers as well. That was
he was soft on every single fucking issue that he claimed. Which I mean, he's a politician. And what do you expect?
I've said it before. I loved the white paper that he put out on the space program because it was forward looking with all the stuff. Is like, look at all this technology that we're on the edge of developing that would give us such a breakthrough. And ultimately, it's like, no, we're not actually going to spend that kind of money. We're just going to go with.
So NASA spending dropped through the floor, didn't it, during those 8 years?
Well, I don't know if it dropped through the floor, but he essentially stripped back Bush. He essentially said, well, Bush's program is over. budget, so we're just going to kill that altogether, and we're going to replace it with tried and true technologies. And what they described was from the 1970s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take Bush's
and
80s, 90s era program that's so outdated, replace it with even more outdated shit.
Yeah.
And I knew that he wasn't going to go through with anything he promised when I looked at what was happening with the healthcare bill. Because everybody else was championing that. It's like, oh, it's universal healthcare, universal healthcare. No,
God, no.
It's not universal healthcare.
Not even universal.
As soon as I found out he was writing that bill, that he literally was allowing the insurance companies to write this bill.
And write it.
And that Big Pharma
was in so charge thick of that nobody actually read it.
There's something that I have to point out here regarding specifically that. It's the same basic concept that Hillary Clinton got in trouble for allowing to get from behind, for putting behind closed doors in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Even Bill Clinton, her own husband, while he was sitting as president, said, yeah, Hillary pretty much fucked that up. It's what she did. She went to Big Pharma and started cutting deals with them behind closed doors.
Yep.
So this was more like Hillary care, if we want to be perfectly honest.
And the problem, like, and there's so many things wrong with the healthcare bill and the healthcare system that we have now, but people wanted universal healthcare so badly that they weren't paying, and they still don't pay attention. There are huge problems with Obamacare in terms of funding and money, and the fact that it's forcing you into it. You can't opt out of it, or else you basically are penalized and have to pay money because you don't want it. And people were okay with it because it's Obama and he had that type of power. He could have pushed any policy he wanted to. He could have pushed term limits like he said he was going to. He could have done all of this stuff and been probably successful because the American people would have united behind him. He had the left and he had the center dead to rights. And he folded. And healthcare was the beginning of that. And it was like, oh, well, you're not going to do anything. And that's one of the reasons I didn't vote for him the second time, was it's just like, I don't feel like you're going to do anything. And I don't see you as any different from the Republicans at this point. I voted for you once, and you've done nothing in 4 years. And I think when it came to Trump, it was somebody who because he's not a career politician, you can't buy somebody who has their own money. And the whole idea behind people voting behind him was, let's throw a grenade in there.
Well, yeah, that is probably true. And the thing is that I can see both sides. I understand why it seems completely chaotic, and I think it probably is very chaotic right now. But I also see you guys' point that it's basically what you're seeing now in the White House is what it probably looks like in a lot of business ventures around the world that constantly change people because some guy got hired within 10 days and then fucked up. Well, fire him. Just fucking fire him.
Why? That's the thing. People were so upset. It was like, why keep somebody around that is failing at the job?
Yes.
And that's what people are figuring out. He's firing people left and right. It's like, well, if they're underperforming and not doing things correctly, why are you keeping them? Like, why did it become a thing where you get appointed a position in the White House or in government, and even if you fuck up, you're allowed to stay because they don't want to let you go?
It's too big to fail being replicated at the top, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey,
why are they kept on? To avoid exactly this kind of thing. We don't want the appearance.
Deefry is here.
Yeah, Deef is there.
I was playing some games with some
That's I'm coming.
No, but but going back to what I said, I also understand the other side of it. I understand the people who see this and are terrified because it's not the way that things are done. It's not normal at all.
Didn't they vote for a political leader that ran on change for 8 years?
Yeah, exactly. So
no, they were
They were kind of hoping for change, you know?
Yeah.
If Barack Obama had balls, he would have done this to a lot of people within his camp that were obvious corporate shills or didn't have his best interest in heart,
but he had that
sold out the American people.
Didn't he have like a speaker or something that everyone had to go through, to get to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He had a handler.
Yeah. Anyways,
that's what she was.
To round up today's podcast, we're gonna discuss something.
You got to make sure Barack doesn't get any ideas like changing and bettering our government.
Don't give that black guy any ideas.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
he was a fucking babysitter to make sure that nothing bad happened to him. Oh, the people love you, and you don't have to change anything. Because
you should be our globalist poster boy. I don't know why I'm British all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Barack Obama was the biggest purse puppy of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm calling it. Barack Obama was just a gigantic purse puppy.
I think that was probably established by the Nobel Prize committee giving it to him because he's not George Bush.
We're sorry about that. We're really sorry about that. We had hopes.
You damn Norwegians.
Anyways,
why in the fuck did you guys do that?
I don't know.
He literally had done nothing.
I should explain something, okay? The Nobel Peace Prize Committee is run, for the most part,
by idiots.
No, not by idiots. But by labor politicians. It was
idiots.
Yeah. For a long time, it was run by very left-leaning people. Right now, I think there's a conservative in charge of the committee. I'm not 100% sure because they cooperate with the government as far as who's on the committee. But before we end today's podcast, Artivous wanted to talk about one thing because he's totally psyched about this. I'm not, because it's a fucking remake, and everybody knows how I feel about remakes. But
Death
Wish.
Any
remake of a movie before 1974 is legit.
All right, let me.
Yeah, right.
It's not just that. You can make good remakes if they have.
That's saying the Planet of the Apes was okay. No, it wasn't.
Oh my God, Jan, will you calm your tits? Let me explain to you what Death Wish was in the first place.
Make him
fine breasticles.
Yeah.
The whole point of the original Death Wish movie was people had lived in cities and there was law.
Yeah.
The cities weren't perfect, but they weren't overrun with crime, and they weren't overrun with basically drug cartels. You could live in, a major city and really not have to worry about crime all that much. It wasn't out of control.
Yeah.
Late 60s and early 70s, it was getting fucking nuts. And it was clear that the police had no real authority to stop this influx of crime and people that were basically taking over areas and neighborhoods. Crack was being introduced. All these drugs were flooding into the system, and the police couldn't do shit.
Yeah.
And that's where a movie like Death Wish came from, where criminals were running rampant and doing whatever the hell they wanted, and they either had the police in their pocket or the police had no authority really anymore whatsoever to do anything about them because the problem was so big. It was a cathartic, somebody's doing something movie.
Well, here's my question. Is it based in Detroit or Chicago?
I thought it was Chicago.
Yeah, it's Chicago.
It's Chicago, yeah. Well, then it could be interesting.
And that was the whole point. It's not supposed to really have a plot. It's not really. It's a guy deciding somebody needs to do something. I'm going to do it. Motherfuckers are going to die. Here's my minigun. And as long, and here's the thing, Eli Roth loves violence. He loves his violence. He loves his gore. He loves to get brutal. That's all this movie needs to.
He's Quentin Tarantino's little apprentice. So yeah,
people are saying now
all
that,
this movie needs to be. All this movie needs in order to be true to the original is be hyper fucking violent.
Yep.
And from what I saw from the trailer, it's hitting the right notes.
Cool.
Deef.
With as soon as I saw the ice cream man scene, I was like, yes, he gets it. This might be a proper remake. Because, all right, for those who haven't seen the trailer, basically, this little black kid goes up to Bruce Willis and says, why can't you walk through that way? It's like, oh, well, nobody could walk through this neighborhood or go to school without the ice cream man's permission. And so he walks up to the ice cream man in a hoodie, and the ice cream man is sitting there with a little ice cream stand there, which he's clearly a drug, cartel leader and a bad person in the neighborhood. And he says to Bruce Willis, is like, who are you? And Bruce Willis says, your last customer, and shoots him right there dead in the street. And the other people of his crew just run like crazy. That's what Death Wish is.
Yeah, to be honest, the casting of Bruce Willis is something that I can get behind. It is.
They needed an old guy.
He's a man who can exude both menace and a sense of being terrified himself while he goes about it.
Yeah,
and slightly and slightly off mentally.
Yes,
because that was a big part of Death Wish as well.
Deef, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think I saw some people calling it controversial purely because the first one was in. Yeah, I know, but
controversial Death Wish.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was kind of the point of the first movie.
Yeah, but people were saying that the reason it's controversial is because the first one being in New York City and they've moved it to Chicago as a blacker area.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of the first movie, because that's where the lawlessness was the worst when that movie came out.
Aren't they trying to come out with a new version of the Warriors, like rebooting the Warriors movie, which was set in New York with all these gangs and all these different ethnicities beating the shit out of each other?
Yeah, which was the 70s, really. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that movie was so true to what was going on. Other than the Cyrus character gathering everybody together, that it felt real to everybody, and literally gangs would get into fights in the movie theater, so they had to stop showing the movie.
So what you're telling me is that Eli Roth should have done it in Detroit?
No, Chicago's perfect because Chicago is lawless as fuck. There are places in Chicago that if you step, like Detroit is a rundown shithole. It's a rundown shithole, but everybody's pretty much scummy at this point. But when it comes to Chicago, it's a big urban area that is more it's more reminiscent of what the original Death Wish movies are, where it's a major city,
right?
That's just gone to fucking shit, and the police can't do a goddamn thing.
Yeah, the difference between that and Detroit is that where there's still stuff to fight over in Chicago, there isn't.
There's nothing to fight over in Detroit.
That's not even a joke. It's just in Detroit, if somebody's fucking with you, you move 3 blocks down to the next, dilapidated, unoccupied house. Big deal.
And anyway, oh Jesus! As we lose as the unicorn goes completely robot and changes into something completely different.
Mecha unicorn.
I just I just wanted to mention one thing before we end.
Well, before we move on for Death Wish, because we still have the whole people are going to shit their wig about this movie because it's going to be a white guy killing minorities. But even with the Death Wish movies, there were the minorities that were fucking up their neighborhoods and the ones that were like, yeah, Bronson, gun those fuckers down, because nobody was doing it, and that's one of those reasons movies got popular.
All right,
and this is the same thing, which is why I like that scene where the little black kid telling him who he needs to kill in order to make him safe.
Yeah, I wish somebody would come to my neighborhood and do that because these assholes are ruining everything, kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's it. I mean, you know, like everyone, the idea of a good vigilante movie is that you could, you can see the character being on the cusp of reality. It's like Falling Down. You know, it starts off like, yeah, you know, I really could smash I really could smash up a grocery store if it just took one thing to tick me off. Then I could see myself doing that. It's like, yeah, I could then steal a bag of guns and go, like spraying bullets across everyone.
Once you go over that line, you just keep going.
Yeah, he talks about
every little thing. Yeah,
and that's the thing about Death Wish is he was pushed to that point where he couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah,
where you said, like, you know what, fuck it, I've lost everything.
But didn't we have
I
that?
don't give a shit. Nobody's doing anything. Fuck it. And that's the thing. Like, if they made this version and they made the Bronson character Bruce Willis's character black, it would still work.
Yeah.
They could have given. They just used Bruce Willis for.
Anyways, before.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to finish the discussion because
he's trying desperately to stop us talking.
Yes, I've been doing that. I've been doing that the entire podcast and the entire show run of the show. Anyways. Before we end, I just wanted to mention that Lord Shithead himself, Mr. Martin Shkreli, has been found guilty of security frauds and conspiracy, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer fella. Enjoy prison. But anyways,
this was the guy who said, "Hey, I'm gonna buy the patent for this AIDS medication and then jack up the price."
Yeah.
Because Obamacare is going to fucking stop me from doing it.
Yeah.
He's going to jail. That's Martin Shkreli.
Anyways, enjoy prison, Mr. Shkreli. That has been the Unsolicited Opinions podcast for this week. I have been your host, Meerkat Monarch, sometimes known as J.H. Lillevik. With me, as always, is my co-host, Artivous Ira, and missing from the setup here is Deefry, who joined us for the last 15 minutes.
He was under the table the whole time.
Yeah, it was under
the table. He's holding up your book right now.
Anyways,
he was giving me a foot rub.
Yeah. Buy my book, is Mark the Mark Boy. And also with me today is Roy, the unicorn, and Dr. Evil at the end of the table. We'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Penis.
Sure.
So, one thing